Good afternoon, everybody. I can see you all starting to join. Welcome to our Instagram live, very excitingly on the Red Ken channel. If I've not met you before, then my name is Jimmy. I am from the UK and we are super excited to be with you this afternoon. So welcome. I can see lots of you are coming in, which is super cool. So we'll just wait maybe a few more minutes for a few of you to get into the room. But what would be really cool and really helpful in the meantime, whilst we're just waiting to get that room filled up as much as possible, if you could maybe pop into the little message box, maybe a flag from the country that you're in, because it would be really super cool to kind of have a look and see who is with me. Morning, I think, for lots of places, but it is actually the afternoon over here in the UK. So maybe just in the chat box, just pop in a flag so that I can kind of see all of the different countries that we've got that are coming into our Instagram live this afternoon. So loads of you coming in, which is super exciting. You're all waving, so I'm waving back to all of you. There are loads and loads of you, so I'm super excited. We'll just wait maybe a few more minutes for the room to fill up, and then we will get started with our Instagram live. So super excited to be with you for the next half an hour or so, just to kind of share with you some techniques with blondes. We're super excited in the UK because we are just today actually is the day that we've launched our new Shade EQ level 10s. So that's really exciting. So I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about Shade EQ level 10s. It could be that you already have them. You may have already launched them, so you may already be using them, which again is very cool. So again, maybe just in the chat, if you are using them, then let me know that you're using them. If you're super pumped and super excited to use them, then again, let me know, because it's really cool that we're all one tribe, yet we're in various different countries. I can see we've got Argentina, which is amazing. I think I've seen the UK flag. I'm seeing them come up slowly. Rio de Janeiro, amazing. New Zealand, we literally have every corner of the globe in here, which is super cool. So some of you are using them and saying that you're absolutely loving the level 10s, which are really cool. We've got Mexico in the house, we've got Florida in the house, we've got Holland. Amazing. We are getting a huge array of people, which is super cool. Brilliant. So we'll get started. I'd like to just maybe start by telling you a couple of things. Firstly, my name's Jimmy from the UK. My Instagram handle is Jimmy1brand, so please make sure that you do follow me either during or after, because I would love to be able to connect with you. We are super excited to let you know that on a weekly basis we are taking over the Red Ken Instagram for around about half an hour, just to really kind of share some techniques with you. They're going to be very much focused around kind of things that are new and exciting, like our Shade EQ level 10s. So make sure that you set a reminder in your calendars and put it into your diaries that every Monday around about, so it's 4 p.m. in UK time, but I think it might be kind of like 11 a.m. in New York time, and I'm sure that we've got a huge variety of timings that are going on around the country with all of you here, because there are so many of you in the room. So let's get started, because I've got loads that I want to share with you, and hopefully you're going to have lots of questions that are going to come through, and I will try and answer as many questions as I possibly can. Like I said, if you're not following me, then please do make sure that you follow me on Instagram. So my Instagram handle is Jimmy1brand. I'm a Red Ken educator back in the UK. And I'm super pumped to spend maybe the next half an hour or so with you, just talking through our Shade EQ level 10s and then showing you some results, because we're hairdressers, we like to see results, and we're much happier when we kind of see something versus talk about it. So I've asked the question already and lots of you have come through saying that you are already using them, so let's maybe talk a little bit about our Shade EQ level 10s. Super exciting that we've got 3 additions that have come along to our Shade EQ portfolio. So we have our 010P, which is our Ivory Pearl. We have our 010T, which is our titanium, and we have our 010GI. Now, I don't know about you guys, but 010GI is super exciting in lots of ways. One, because any addition to the level 10s I think is fantastic, but the GI for us in the UK is a new tonal family, so we've literally been desperate to kind of get our hands on it and have a little play with it, and the results that we've seen so far from what you guys are sharing and what we're going to share with you today, I am totally in awe and in love with 010GI. So it's definitely going to become one of my favorites, and I can see lots of you already saying that it's your favorite too. So I can't wait to share some of those results with you. So firstly, I thought what we would kind of start off with is that I wanted to, we've set up our Shade EQ level 10s really nicely, and what I wanted to do was to maybe have a little look at some of the results for maybe those of you that haven't had the opportunity to use the level 10s yet. I know, like I said, in the UK we've just launched them today, so they are literally hot off the press, and I know that we're all pumped in order to kind of get them into salons and to start using them, as all the hairdressers and stylists are also very keen to use them. I think we've also got Jack that's on there from the UK, and he's saying that he's sporting the 010GI, so a great representation there in the UK. So we've spoken about our Shade EQ level 10s. We know that the addition of Shade EQ level 10s to the portfolio is a fantastic addition, because the 010N, 010VV have been really valuable additions that we've had in the portfolio. So the fact that they're kind of growing and they're getting better is just a win-win in my opinion. So I've kind of prepared ahead for you just with the 3 tones on there, so that we can maybe have a little look at the different results and kind of like the different tonality. So what I've tried to do with the results is that you can see that I've got one panel here that is uncolored. So this is really kind of like my starting point where I started off, and you can see that it's a nice blonde mannequin. This hasn't been toned in any way, shape nor form, so you can actually see that the result of it is really clean, it's really beautiful. So the first one that we want to then have a little look at is our 010T. So this is our platinum, and I think you can see from like the comparison is that it's just that really beautiful kind of like icy white, icy clean blonde. When you look at kind of like the difference from like the untoned hair to the hair that's been toned, you can just see it really has that beautiful cool tone that sits alongside it. We talk about backgrounds in Shade EQ, and the background of our titanium is our black to grey. So again, it kind of has that cooling ability to it, and you can kind of see with that result, it's just beautiful. It's flawless. The condition of it is incredible, and you've got a really beautiful even tone from root right the way through to the tip. So definitely one that we're going to be using. So that's our 010T. On the opposite side, we have our 010P. So this is kind of our Ivory Pearl. And again, you can kind of see the coolness, the softness to it is just phenomenal. It's really kind of neutralized all of that unwanted tone in the existing hair, and it's just created that really beautiful silvery hue that again works its way through those mid-lengths and ends. So a really stunning result, and again you can kind of see the differences between the toned versus the untoned. Now I've said it already, but the my ultimate favourite out of the three is going to be our 010 GI, our Teasing sand. And you can kind of see here, it just has that really beautiful, I think sand is such a good word to describe this result, because these are just stunning. It's still beautifully blonde. It's got that kind of really soft, warm tone to it, but it's not very golden, it's not super warm, it still has that natural kind of feel to it. So really, really beautiful all the way through those mid-length ends. Such a soft blonde. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that when you look at things like your 010 GI versus your 010P, you can see that the background of the 010 GI is slightly different to your 010T and your 010P. So the background to our 010 GI is our brown to tan, and this is a really good representation to kind of see the difference between the background. Cool and more neutralizing, whereas this is going to add a little bit more tonality to it. So a really, really beautiful addition. So to recap, our starting point, our existing colour, untoned, just a crystal clear put through it just to kind of give it the shine and the condition. We then have our 010T, so really beautiful, cooling background, black to grey background, and then you've got silver and blue. We then have our Ivory Pearl, our 010P. So again, the cooling backgrounds, your black to grey backgrounds, and then we've got violet and blue. And then our beautiful 10 GI, so slightly warmer background to that brown to tan, and then we've got a really beautiful gold and then an iridescent violet. So the two tones just work so beautifully together. I think you're saying that all three are beautiful, and it's they are a super addition to the portfolio. So if you guys have got any questions about any of the shades on Shade TQ, then pop them up and I will try and answer as many questions as I possibly can. The next part that I want to share with you is that I want to kind of share with you, we've obviously looked at these on very blonde hair, but I wanted to maybe put them into some form of technique with you so that you could maybe see them being used on more everyday clients that are coming into the salon. So in the UK, we've been doing quite a lot of Instagram lives, and we came up with a technique which we called a baby light tip out. So it's a really soft technique. It's really about just doing a few face framing foils around the front hairline, and then once you've got, and this was really designed to be up to about 15 foils. That was kind of like the maximum foils that we wanted to put in, and they were predominantly all around the hairline. So once we put in like our 12 foils through that hairline, we literally then just took out some pieces and we worked it through the mid-length and end. So somebody that's maybe new to having kind of colour would be like, this is a really subtle way of introducing a little bit of blonde, mainly around the face, and as you can see when you start to work through, it literally fades out into kind of more of the natural colour. So this was kind of like my starting point, and I wanted to evolve this because I love this effect. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to make it a little bit more impactful, because I think with the amount of blonde here, you may lose the tens if we toned on them. I can see some of your questions coming through. So a couple of points that I would maybe say is that processing, always 20 minutes with Shade TQ and always on to dry hair. Another question that came through was about would you dilute with crystal clear? I think yes, you can absolutely dilute with crystal clear, but what I would probably be mindful of is think about condition. If you've maybe got hair that's very porous and you know that it's going to accept colour and you're concerned that it's going to maybe either overtone or go a bit deeper, then I would definitely put some of your crystal clear in. But the level 10s have been calibrated to sit on the level 10, so you don't necessarily need to always dilute them. Can you use Shade TQ on grey hair? So with the Shade TQ gloss, we don't commit to coverage. We talk about blending. So up to around 50%, and the best families to use for that are going to be your ND families. So is the technique that I want to share with you today. So this is kind of like the variation, the next step up from our face frame with our tip out. So this is essentially baby lights, and then what we've done is that we've tipped out the ends to kind of give you a little bit more impact in terms of color. So again, you can kind of see that primarily lots of the color is sitting around the face. You can kind of see that it's really lovely and really close up to her front hairline. And then what you should be able to see is that you've got this really beautiful cascade of blonde that's coming through to kind of like the natural tones through the back. So when we look at this technique, predominantly the impact of color is going to be around the face, but it is blending out, and we do have some color through here, but this is really kind of like the second part to our technique. So if you're happy, I would like to maybe just walk you through what we've done with this technique, and I'm going to show you, and then I will finish off a few sections for you as well, just so that we can have a little look. So great question about what have I used for a toner. So I'm going to hold on to that information just for the minute, and I will share it with you once we kind of get to the end. But a great question. I think I also saw another question about why can you not use Shady Q onto damp hair. And so the reason that we advise you to put it onto dry hair is because the processing solution is not particularly strong in strength. So really what we want to try and make sure that we do is that we get the best result from the color. And if we've got any moisture in the hair, what you may find is that we might start to dilute the strength of the oxidant a little bit. So putting it onto dry hair just means that there's no moisture in the hair. It just means that you're not going to get any dilution, and you're going to get the full strength and deposit of color on dry hair versus wet hair. So hopefully that answers your question. So Shady Q has its own developer, so it has a processing solution. So we don't advise mixing Shady Q gloss with anything other than the processing solution. So not necessarily with 10 or 20 volume. It comes with its own processing solution. So Jack's asking, do you still leave it on the hair for 20 minutes? Yes, absolutely. Always 20 minutes. You need to leave it for that full development time. So I'm going to walk you through what we've done in order to kind of get you through to our end result. So if you've been on any of the online education with Redken, there's been lots of techniques that we've been looking at, and face frame is definitely one that is a really popular service here in the UK. I'm not sure whether it's the same in all of your countries, but it's definitely something that is trending over here in the UK. So essentially this is a face frame, but what we've done with our face frame is that we've really built on that face frame to kind of give you a slightly more impact. But what we've also wanted to create is still a really soft, beautiful color. So what I've done, and the way that this technique is going to work, is that I've literally taken out a diagonal section on the top of the head. So if I show you, we've gone for a center parting, so you can kind of see at the front where we've got the foils here. We've gone for a center parting, and then I've gone and I've taken a diagonal section. So the diagonal probably stops at maybe just like the top of the ear. And then we've gone through into the back section. So we're just following that diagonal all the way through. Now we will color this hair, but this is going to be the last bit that we color because I really want to kind of see how that falls. So once we've done that, we have then started to do our face frame foils. And what we've done with our face frame foils is that we've done these on a diagonal backwards. So I've come right the way to the front. This is baby lights, so micro stitch, so you can kind of see that it's very soft, that we kind of left out. And I've done very fine sections in between each foil because remember this is baby lights, and I just want to kind of create a lot of softness through here. So I've done 3 foils on either side to kind of create the face frame. And then what you can kind of see that we've started to do with our next foil is that instead of working directly on the part, I've kind of just started to drop it down a little bit. So actually this, I know that when we then finish this hair, this natural colour is going to fall over my highlight, and really you're going to see the effect of the colour that will come through the sides. We've repeated the same process on the opposite side, so you can see that we've got these really soft face frame foils around here, and then as we start to work further back, we've started to drop that foil down a little bit. When we come through to the side, so the hairline, what we've also done is that we've done the same we've done the face frame around the hairline. So I'm just following the hairline, micro stitch, because we want a really soft baby light, and again we've just done 3 foils back. So you can put as many or as little foils in as you want. I've literally just put in enough for it to kind of give a slightly higher impact around the front hairline. Once you've got your face frame in, all I've literally done is just started to work myself back in the same sectioning. So I'm going to carry on and just put a couple more foils in just to kind of show you where we've placed those foils. So I'm going to bring the head around so that you can kind of see it, and what you'll be able to see is that you can see that I've got my face frame in, and then I've started to continue working back in that diagonal back. And really what I'm looking for with this sectioning is that I want some of that colour to fall through the bottom, so I'm not so worried about getting it really tight to the root here. I'm wanting to maybe kind of see it through that mid-length, or that zone 2 and that zone 3. So there's lots of questions coming through. I will try and answer as many of them as possible. If you can see what I'm doing, which hopefully you can, because I think I'm putting it in the right position, but if you can't see it, then just let me know and I can kind of adjust myself. So you can see that my last foil was here, and it was on the diagonal back, and it's actually incorporating some of the hair that's going to sit underneath, or it's going to fall underneath. Now the difference here is that I'm still wanting to follow the same sectioning pattern. I'm still wanting to do that diagonal back, but what I'm actually doing is that I'm starting to spread the size of my section out so that I'm getting less and less colour. So think about it, all of the impact of the colour was right at the front, and as I'm working myself back, I'm getting less and less and less colour, because what I'm trying to do, or what I'm wanting to create, is that really soft, beautiful, natural effect that's coming through the hair. You'll also notice that what I'm not going to be doing is necessarily going up really high with my sections. I almost want to kind of think about my diamond, and I want to kind of work that sectioning through the bottom. So I'm just going to take a fine section, and then just going to do my baby light, so literally lifting off kind of like the surface. Again, you can change the size of your stitch if you want to do something that's thicker and has a little bit more of a statement, then that's absolutely fine as well. I like to kind of do lots of soft natural colour, and so baby lights for me I really enjoy. Now in terms of what I'm using, I'm just using flash lift bonder inside, and because this mannequin has got no colour on, then I'm mixing it with 30 volume, just to give me some lift through those mid-lengths and ends. In terms of brush, because again I think that's quite important in terms of what brush you tend to use, I'm using a brush that's kind of got like the ends are a little bit softer. It's not a straight edge. I'll show you one of the brushes so that you can have a little look. But you can kind of see that the ends of the brush is a little bit feathered, and that just makes it a little bit softer when you're applying the colour. So if you look up here, you can kind of see that they're not necessarily really straight. You can kind of see that they're feathered a little bit, and that's a really nice type of brush to use just to kind of create a little bit of softness. With the baby lights, what I also try and do is to go up as close to the root as possible, because it's only a baby light. It's not a really heavy weave that we're doing. So actually what I want to try and create is almost the effect that the colour is kind of coming out of the scalp, and it's more of a natural result versus it being too highlighted or being too false. Am I saving the videos to watch later? Yes, we are going to upload this onto the Redken IGTV, and I will also put it onto my personal Instagram. So if you're not following me, then please do. And it's Jimmy #1 brand. It's all one word, all lowercase. But it would be great to connect with you all and have a little look and see what you guys are also doing out there. So you can see that I'm going up really tight to the roots because again I want it to look really soft, really natural, as if it is almost kind of just natural lightness that is coming through naturally versus it looking too coloured or too highlighted. So the idea being is that we started off with much higher impact of colour, and really what we're doing is that we're just working our way back through to the back. Now I don't want to put masses in because what I want to do is I think about where this is going to fall and where this is going to sit when I take out that foil. So I know that actually, yes, I'm not going to see colour up here particularly, but that's fine because the top's going to fall over, but I am going to start to see that colour kind of cascade down through these lengths, through that mid-length. So that's going to be enough of my foils, because what we also said that this was really about kind of doing some face frame and then doing what we call a tip out. So again, you might be doing these types of services in the salon, but really what we're doing when we look at the tip out element of it is that we're just taking the hair from maybe like 3 different foils, and then we're just doing some really soft balayage just through that mid-length and end. But what I'm doing is I'm making sure that we retain that hair within the foil, because if I can have some retention of heat in there, I'm going to get a little bit of lift on there. And so in order to kind of do the tip out, you're literally just taking the hair from roughly about 3 foils. You can see I've got my 3 foils here. And then what we're doing is just simply, I'm pulling it all forward, because again, if I pull forward and she wears it back, I'm going to get that really beautiful transition where I'm going to have higher colour kind of coming in to lower colour. So I'm pulling it forward. Now there's lots of different ways in which you can balayage, and you know, you've kind of got things where you can go in with your V's, you've got tools that you can use like your balayage boards, you've got tools that will help you to kind of soften colour, so you've got things like your blur brush, and you've also got things like your edging brush, so all really nice tools to kind of help you transition colour. But I'm literally just going to put a very, very, very soft amount of teasing into it. And really what the important thing about the teasing is that you don't want to be holding hair high. You don't want to be here doing it, because you're not really getting rid of any of this length through those mid-lengths and ends. So I'm literally very, very gently just holding on to these tips, and then I'm just pushing some of that excess away, and then this is the area that I want to go in and put some of my colour. Because it's a tip out, I really only want to focus my colour onto the tips of the hair. So I'm going to go for saturation here, because I want a really nice saturation so I can get some lightness, and then I get a little bit lighter as I go further up. And then you can take either your blur brush or your edging brush, and then I'm literally just going to soften that line up so that I get a really beautiful transition. So this is a bit like a safety blanket, because the teasing is just going to make sure that we push some of those lengths away. You're then using your blur brush, and what the blur brush will do is it will just make sure that you get a really soft transition. So it's almost like a double guarantee that I know that I'm going to get a really beautiful blend from top to bottom. So I'll show you another one just to kind of revisit everything that we've said, because the other thing is I'm still pulling this forward. I want to pull this forward because what I want to do is I want to get that transition of colour. So I'm pulling it forward, I very, very softly hold it, I'm then just going to push back once Really, I don't want to push back any more than that, because again, I don't want to create a nightmare when I get to rinsing it off at the backwash or at the basins. So just doing one very, very soft push, and remember, it's about the ends, it's not about going up really high. So I'm just going to work my product through those ends, make sure I get really good saturation on there so that I can get some lightness. And then again, blur brush and just transition. So it's almost that guarantee that you're going to get a really beautiful transition from one to the other. How do you stop the blur brush from getting product from one place to the next? So great question. So about the blur brush, like how do you stop it from transferring product? The secret is, and I'm sure that I'm not an expert on makeup, but think about makeup. When you're putting on blusher, what you're really trying to do is that you're wanting to get a transition of like a highlight. And really that's exactly the same with the blur brush. So if you look at my blur brush, you can see that yes, there might be a little bit of product on there, but actually in the main, the brush is still very, very dry. So I'm not going in and pushing down hard on the brush. It's literally surface and I'm transitioning the product. So really, really soft versus going in and being too heavy with it. So I hope that's how you apply blusher. If I've got it wrong, then I do apologize. So the same effect is that you're going to go through and you're going to do the same through the back sections. But what you're going to do with the back sections again is you're going to do that like over direction, and you're going to pull it forward so that you can then just go through and do your tip out on the ends. So you follow that all the way through, and this is what it's going to look like once you've got all of your foils in. So you can see I've got my structured foils, and then I've got my tip outs that are sitting here. And again, the tip out, you can put in as many or as little as you want to. If you want to put loads in and get it really blonde, then put loads in. If you just want to put a few in, then put a few in. It's really entirely up to you. And that's what makes us all different, which I think is really cool. We've got Pakistan in the room as well. This is so cool. So the final thing that we're going to do is our diagonal section on top. So we're going to drop this down, and really what I'm looking for here is I just want the hair to fall as it would naturally. So she is a center parting, and you can kind of start to see that the hair literally just cascades over all areas. So I'm just letting it kind of fall in the natural fall. I'm not really putting much effort into it. And then what we're going to do, and again this is where it very much comes down to you as an individual, is that I'm going to take quite a big section. I don't want to take really small, really minute sections, and it's almost like you're splitting it into four, I suppose, but you don't necessarily have to, because you don't have to be that structured. But then what we're going to do is that we're just going to follow the same process. So come right to the ends and then hold it very, very gently. And then you're literally going to push away the excess, and you're going to just go in and do your tip out. So you're just going to put a little bit through those ends, and it's following exactly the same process. So ends only, put your product on, nice saturation. If you want to turn your brush and make it more like vertical, then again that's absolutely fine. We all have different ways of doing things. You can see blur brush, there's not mass product on it, just really soft blend. I'm not putting any pressure onto it, so even when you look at the brush after, there's still not mass product on there, it's just surface product. So really soft transition, and then we fold up our foil. And you do that on each quadrant, and then that is your technique that is complete. So didn't weave the top sections. The reason I didn't weave the top sections is because I literally want it to be really soft, and I don't want it to kind of be through that midband. I literally just want it to kind of sit on the ends. So let's maybe just revisit. We've done face framing, so I've put really about kind of 6 foils either side, working with the hairline So making sure that I'm following the hairline all the way around. I've done baby lights because I love the effect of baby lights, and what I think is lovely with baby lights is that you can get really tight to the root and it just looks like it's super natural versus it looking too heavy or too forced. We had the diamond section on our top, which we kind of put out of the way, so we just got that out of the way, and then we worked a diagonal back, really kind of working through to the back where we've got some of the colour that's going to cascade and come through here. Once we've done that, we've then, in between our foils, we've literally tipped out those ends. So for every maybe 3 foils, you take all of the hair together, you tease it back, and then you just put some through on to the ends. So I've chosen to do very, very gentle teasing. You don't have to do that if you want to. You can just go through and just do your balayage. It's really about what works best for you and what you feel most comfortable with. But that's the technique. And again, what I'll do is I'll just bring in the mannequin. This is the result. So this is exactly the same process as what we've just done. And what you're able to see here is that the volume of colour is really around the front. You can kind of see that I've got those baby lights that are sitting predominantly around that front hairline. And then as you kind of work your way around, you can kind of see that the impact of colour is almost just cascading through to those mid-length and ends. So you can still see that we've got lots of colour on these ends, but it just blends out really beautifully into what would be very kind of sun-kissed, very natural hair. You then got the same on the other side, so again nicely framed around the face, and then what's happened is that it kind of cascades through to that more natural feel. So really beautiful. And then somebody asked me right at the start about what did I tone this with. So I did go through and I toned it. I was desperate to use my favourite shade, as I've already told you, which is the new 010GI Tahitian Sand even. So I did a root tap of 9NB just to make sure that there's a little bit of texture in that root. And then that covered about ½ an inch, so maybe a couple of centimetres. I then worked my 010GI through those mid-lengths and ends, and you can kind of see it's just such a soft, beautiful colour, and it really kind of just cascades and transitions into natural colour. But even through here you can still see that on my tip out you can still see colour, and it just looks soft. It just looks really, really beautiful. So that's my technique, and that's what I wanted to share with you. I've tried to answer as many questions as I possibly can as we've gone through, but I appreciate that there might be a few more questions. So you want me to show you the foils on the baby lights. So obviously the foils are already in here now, so I can't necessarily go back in and do them, but I've literally just probably about maybe an inch through the hairline, and I've just done a micro stitch if that's easier, but super, super fine highlights. You can kind of see that the hair that's left out under there is super, super fine, but I've done them a baby light because I really wanted it to look like it's growing out of the hair naturally versus it looking really heavily in its highlight. And you can see that through the results that you kind of get through here. It's just really soft. It almost looks like it's a natural result versus it actually looking like a highlight. How would you do a grey touch up with this technique? So if you've got grey hair, then you can still go through and put your baby lights through, and then what I'd maybe do once you've got your baby lights in is go through and do your grey retouch after that, just to make sure that you are covering that as well. Or you could do it as a double process, so do your grey first, and then once you've done your grey you could maybe go back in and do your baby lights after that. In which instance would you choose 10p versus 10t? Great question. So think about what result you've been left with. If we think about maybe which one is stronger over the other, titanium will have the strongest tonality and 10p will be a slightly softer version. So we always say to you with any form of toning, always make sure that you're looking at what you have in front of you. How light have you lifted that hair? Look at the result. If you think that actually there's maybe still some like orange in there and there's still yellow in there, you need to use something a little bit stronger. You might want to go with the T. If it's the orange in there is maybe like just a soft gold and you've got some yellow, then maybe go for the 010p. But definitely think about where you're at, and the 10t has a slightly stronger tone than your 010p. So that's how I would generally choose between the two. Did I leave some hair out in between the baby lights? Yes, I did. Just so that it wasn't back to back. I didn't want it to be a stripe. So I wanted it to have higher impact, but I didn't necessarily want it to be stripy. So it was baby lights and just a very, very soft section left out in between. So I think that hopefully has answered lots of your questions. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me on your Monday morning, afternoon, or whichever time of the day it might be. Like I said, we will repost this video or this Instagram live onto the Redken Instagram or IGTV, and I will also make sure it goes onto my personal one or my Redken one, which is Jimmy #1 brand. So if you haven't written it down, please do write it down because it would be really good. Equally, if you've got questions that you've asked and I've not been able to answer because they're flying through, then feel free to reach out. I would be more than happy to answer as many questions as I possibly can. So just once you started following me, then I will DM you or DM me with your question, and I will try and answer as many of them as possible. So any questions, by all means, do send it in. Like I said, please save the date because next week at the same time we have a Redken artist called Heather King, who is going to be sharing her thoughts and ideas and some techniques around level 10s. So super exciting. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. I'm very grateful, and I can't wait for you all to follow me and for me to follow you back and see what you guys are doing as well with your Shade TQ level 10s and all of your colouring actually. So I'm super excited, and we will leave it there. So thank you guys so much, and I look forward to getting all these DMs and seeing you soon. Take care.